So, with the Wawa shutting down in Philly, it sure seems like the beginning of many more shutdowns, and Philadelphia being that main target that I've been talking about for at least 4 years now. Well, at least 3, and then into 4 years. Along with being a second 9/11 type of an event. And if that event doesn't take place this year, I'd be surprised. But I was surprised that the last year's it didn't happen either. By the time the year 2024 comes around, nothing ever happens, and nothing ever will. But Philadelphia, now that the bridge collapsed, and I haven't driven in that area. I don't even want to get stuck in that traffic, because all they're doing is getting off and going down the side streets, and that is one busy. There is, no matter what time you leave heading home, it's always packed. It's always just gridlock. Now, going to work from where I'm at, you can get up early enough and you can get straight through. But for some reason, coming back, I guess because everybody wakes up, the ones that don't work, and they just start crowding the streets. But now that that event took place, and Jonathan Kleck is clearly explaining the meaning of it, and well, I'm doing the same thing. It's just I don't really truly know unless I get a confirmation from it, because the bridge itself, looking at it, when you see it from the side view that they show you, I don't know if it's photoshopped a little bit or not. Usually it is. Or usually they have it set up where they can just place some items there to look that way, because the people the first responders are the ones that set things up. So when that bridge is stomped down to the ground, and Joe Johnny's talking about how he stepped on a serpent's head and crushed it. It was crawling under the threshold. You see the bridge, it has that look to it where in between there's a serpent crawling through with its neck broken, because it was stomped on. It also looked like an alligator from one view, because artwork blends into artwork. And so that snake was trying to come into the house of 3 head symbols, 888. And it was crossing over the bridge. So a bridge, I mean, a threshold is a crossover from the outside to the inside of the house. Bridges are crossovers from one side to the other side, because it crosses over a street, an underpass. So it's like a threshold. When Jonathan Kleck's talking about that same exact thing, and you're seeing it, and then he's talking about the sheep at the top, and Gangstal kings are everywhere these days. Because what happens is that really does. I know it's not the only reason why, like, in order to stall people and make life difficult, because planned out by design, it's just going to make people frustrated, late. But these are all tests for people too, to pass them, to get over your anger. But it's not like it's just gonna help anybody. It's only gonna hurt them. So that's not really the reason why. The reason, I believe, is that whoever the serpent is, whoever's representing the serpent in the garden, when Click shows it Barack Obama and this and that, and pointing in his direction, Barack Obama being the serpent, then okay, then I guess he got stomped, right? If that's the case, under that bridge in Philadelphia. But the point being is that the serpent was coming from the north direction, and it got caught going. It's the northbound direction, but the serpent was going southbound. So he was going in the he was traveling underneath of the bridge. Like, see this bridge coming up? He was traveling inside of the bridge. Like, look at the bricks, as if he was in between that, going in the opposite direction, hiding under the underground. So he got stomped. That's one way of hurting the economy. So the moment it happened, I gave my opinion towards it. I believe it's going to collapse the economy in Philadelphia, Center City first. And then as a bomb is dropped in a certain area, everywhere around it feels the effect until it just drifts off into the air. And then, don't you know, about four or five Wawas either shut their doors and are shutting their doors, because the tale, the story, the tales that were being told, the tales of the crypt, is that violence is up more. There's carjackings and armed robberies, and it's so dangerous around that area that they have to shut it down. They just have to. We can't tolerate it anymore, even though we've been open for decades. But as soon as Robin said that the economy is going to collapse in Philadelphia, we decided to shut our doors. We took his advice and said, you know what, before the economy collapses, we better get out of here and start the collapse. And I'm surprised that they're not even saying that it's because of the closure of the I-95. I'm surprised they're not giving that excuse. But that's not even the reason why it's shutting down either. It's shutting down because it was planned that way. There's nothing in this world you hear about on a television set is random or an accident. It's all done on purpose. Because the devil runs the show. And as soon as his time is up, he gets to go rest and take off. Satan, take off. You could say you take off for the next 1,000 years, but that's not even the case either, because you're taking off for good. You're going to go back, because here's the thing, how can anybody forget what's happening right now, as you are the head of the serpent? How can you forget it? How does God forget it? How does he let these moments live through, manifest out, fulfill, and then go back and do another 1,000-year period, and then let Satan come back out again, and it's just, none of that's ever made sense. Besides that, we're in that period now, and days are really if you're ignorant of 1,000 years is as one day, and one day is as 1,000 years, then you'll be stuck in that realm. Because it doesn't even make sense that the people going through it now have to wait, and they have to die, come back later on, and then wait 1,000 years, and then they can experience it. Tell that fox, right? That fox. That was the. It's funny that's the same symbol that was up. It's called head. What is it called? Head Square. Something like that. The neighborhood where the Wawa's shutting down at 2nd and South Street. You tell that fox, because there's a fox for lease and they're leaving town. So the foxes are getting kicked out. And right before that, I showed, there's always one person that makes a left-hand turn. Right before that, I showed the scorpion video that I didn't get around to doing it yet, like side-by-side comparison, and then the Dream On with Aerosmith. I didn't get around. I finally did get around to showing you what's identical in it's the X app. I pushed record, I walked around, I showed some things, I played the video, and voila, you have the people on the bikes mentioning Grand Junction as I walked by. Now that was the second time that they were in a group waiting for me. The first, I can't find the video for some reason. I don't know what. I recorded one of the videos. I was coming down the hill, and all those people on the bikes were just sitting there, as in a finish line, and I walked through the middle of them. And then I went to the other portion across the street, and then same thing. When I came back, they were waiting there too. And then this time they said they were talking about Grand Junction. And that's why you heard it when I slowed it down and repeated it again. I'm like, Grand Junction? Jonathan Kleck? They're like, huh? Who? Okay. They're like, what do they say? Oh, is it a football player? Like, yeah, probably. Jalen Hurts, who knows? Philadelphia quarterback. And the woman that was being interviewed out in front of the Wawa, a second south in that area, she kind of had like the Tina look to her. She was like talking about the ones, the kids on the bikes. And I just immediately assumed she's talking about the video that I just posted with the bicycles. Because they were talking about Grand Junction, and that ties into Jonathan Kleck, and everything just seems to tie into Jonathan Kleck. So if anybody's wondering why I'm still paying attention to Jonathan Kleck, it's because any type of major event, catastrophe, or really anything I post video wise, he'll reference it back. And then the other Jonathan Kleck gets on, I believe, even still, and he's like, oh yeah, just some people try to pertain that as if things are about them, and it's just not. It's really pathetic. I can't help but to just think I'm being talked about all the time. I know, it seems like a fool of myself. Like, everybody's just talking about you. Everything's about you, Rob. It's just everything. Well, if you stop making it about me and everything that I'm posting and relating stuff back to me, then I would stop going back and forth with you. But because my eyes see as clearly as possible in the spirit realm after 6 years learning how to communicate with devils and angels. I've learned that I'm right. And it doesn't matter what a negative thought thinks of people, because I've learned not to give a poop about what your thoughts are, because the plan from the beginning was to cover everybody's face and just shut up and deal with the gang stalking that just likes setting up traffic scenes and scenes where if they can just stall you for a moment or two or three, and then it's all good. It's fine. It's if you can block the right hand lane and pretend that you're doing something with some actor over there, then by all means do it. And if you don't comply, guess what? If you don't wear your mask, you know what we're gonna do, Robin? Mr. Tease, are you gonna put a mask on, or am I gonna put these handcuffs on you? It's like, all right, I'm leaving. That was the beginning of. I mean, that was a major test for me to learn how to. Because the one that's attacking me is myself. My conscience is, I'm attacking myself. I'm walking in a store and I don't have a mask on, and I know they're going to come up to me and tell me, sir, and then even if you get away with it and they don't bother you, everybody that's in the store wearing a mask, it thinks that you have AIDS or something, or you're gonna, like, they're gonna die from your disease if they even come near you. I don't know what's going on with that, but and so it's the thoughts in your own head that you're battling with, because you know damn well that that's what everybody's thinking. Now, once you finally realize you know what people are thinking, and it's true when it comes to pass, because some people will even say things like that, like out loud, like, oh, you're the disease, it's your problem, you need to put on a mask. Like a dollar store scene that I recorded the one time. It's like, all right, well, hey, I knew that that's what you were thinking, that people were thinking that, and that guy spoke it out loud to prove that I was right. And then, so now that you know that you're right, now what? What are you gonna do? What am I gonna do? Am I gonna walk around and let other people's thoughts dictate my life? Not anymore. I used to, all the time, because I was always felt attacked, and I always felt severely gang stalked without even knowing that gang stalking is a thing. So once you realize you're gang stalked, it's the same thing. It's the same, okay, all right, well, you're going to do your tactics. I get it. You're real slick. You're always going to be there. Everybody's involved. Everybody's involved one way or another, and I'm not. What kind of world am I in? Am I the only one that's stuck in this planet that woke up to the reality of dead people walking? Or is this the process where people wake up and they start realizing that, wow, oh man, everybody, because if you don't see the Gang Stalk Corporation, the secret, you can't see anything. If you can't see it, you're not awake towards the reality of this world. And again, everybody could be involved, and it's just little old me that's not. And I get on YouTube, and that's how immediately, and as soon as I hop on, everybody already knew who I was, what I was doing, where I was going, because nobody else is going to open their mouth and say anything about anything, because they're all part of it. So then I continue on year after year after year, getting attacked from people doing videos because other people's opinions dictated what I'm going to do and say, and I'm trying to appease certain people who've said certain things or made videos about me, and then now it's just time for everybody to just watch. Just watch. This is what's happening right now. So I've learned to shut the volume off, because really it's just myself. It's Satan, my other side, talking trash like he always does in my head. Same thing, does it to you, does it to everybody. Satan is a spirit. It's not one person, although one person can represent him, and then that same person that represents Satan, he, she, him, her, himself, created he, him, himself, winds up casting the spirit of Satan out of his house. So the person that is responsible for all the sin has a change of heart. The person that's in charge of the entire planet system has a change of spirit, and so now he's possessed by Christ. Christ just possessed him. He got captivated. He got captured. Satan got captured. There's a seal thrown upon him. His mouth was shut for 1,000 years, even as a day, as a year. He was loose for a little season, because even he knows, and the spirit of Satan knows that when he's cast out of somebody, he knows especially at the highest level, he's already cast out of people in the highest level. It doesn't seem that way because the world is still just, it's only getting worse and worse and more disgusting and sickening and everything like that, because of the way that the system is and how people are, and it is what it is. But Satan knows that his time is very short, because truly his time really is very short. He has like a year tops. He has like a year left, because he was running you guys from the top level, the highest level. He was running you. And you even know it. You know that, you know God. You understand, but you took Satan's route because it was more pleasurable at the time anyway. You didn't realize that, oh wait a minute, I'm just being weak-minded because I'm allowing Satan, which is the enemy of what good is, and you know damn well what good and evil is. So people that act like you don't know what it is, you do know. Your flunkies may not know, but you definitely know. So when you can admit, yeah, even myself, yep, Satan was running my life by using fear tactics and being concerned about people's thoughts. That's what the biggest thing he's ever used against me is that. Now that I know that I'm influencing the people that run the entire universe, and it's a timing issue, that once the timing is over, then the proof happens, and I'm living as like the butterfly that's in the cocoon. This whole entire experience is inside of a cocoon matrix. When it's over, I finally get birthed out of that and fly away. And it happens in that one day. So it just feels like there's like a 6-7 year period of all this manifesting in spirit that seems like a fantasy land. And then all of a sudden, it's like, there it goes. And then it happens. And then immediately people's eyes are open because who's in charge breaks the news. So who's in charge? Does it really matter when I say, is it Derek Broze? Is it Jonathan Clark? Is it Stephen James? Is it Stephen Ben Noon? Is it Jacob Israel? Is it Skip Heitzing? Is it Kim Jean over there? Who is it? Paul Begley? Is it one or the other? Who's in charge? Well, Satan is the hired hand. Satan and God made a deal from the beginning of time. They know the time, the ending of it. And when it's over, anybody who still is being ran by the spirit of Satan gets crushed. God gives you power to step on scorpions and serpents. So when John the Clark is stepping on the head of a the head of a serpent, crushing it. As the day after the bridge collapsed, and he's showing me what's inside of the bridge, along with the shark next to it, along with the sheep on top of the bridge, then there's your confirmation right there. Nobody else showed me that besides Jonathan Clark. So that would mean he would be the one that either A, created the event, or B, once the event happened, he explained it, because it seems like it's a bad thing, right? It's like, oh man, the bridge collapsed. It could be a terrorist, but no, it was just some regular guy. He was a really good driver, and he just happened to lose control and crash and burn and die right after 30 tons of ammonium oxide or whatever was missing, the very highly explosive material that can burn steel. I mean, it could probably. And then, so that happened with him, and so it doesn't seem like a terrorist attack, and it just seems like an accident that was waiting to happen. And then, but the good part of it, you can look at it as a bad part, right? You can look at it as whoever's from the north up over there is collapsing the northbound bridge, so you can't, technically, so you can't get out of Philly is how that was. But considering the south side was still, you could still drive over, but it was collapsing. But really, the snake was coming from the north side underneath of the bridge on the north side, but traveling south towards Center City. So the idea is to collapse travel into the city and surround it like Jerusalem. Once you see all the military tanks and everything surrounding the city, and you know that we're here at the end. They're not there yet, but you can see it's getting set up. The doors, the gates are shut. The William Penn building, the actual four corners of the compass into the dead center of the earth right there underneath the William Penn building, because, well, the Philadelphia is the first city. It was the first. That's where the Declaration of Independence was signed. It's right there in the dead center of the world, right there. So that would be the four corners, really, because it's north, south, east, and west is where you go from that area. That's why it's set up like that. So they're getting ready to get there to be stationed. The deviant brothers are ready to rise up from the pit, because that's what the bridge collapse is showing. So it's really, it's God stomping on the head of the serpent is what that bridge collapse meant. Yeah, it's going to collapse the economy. It's slowly, fastly but shortly. It's doing it already. It's already collapsing it, because Philadelphia, the Wawas are shutting down. 5 of them. So that only means that what starts to shut down next is the 7-Elevens. And then the whatever other convenience stores, and then the Home Depots, and then the Lowe's, and then everything just shuts down. And as soon as they attack the other side of 95, whether it's the bridge, the Walt Whitman Bridge, Ben Franklin Bridge, I don't think they'll mess with the Betsy Ross or the Tacony. Now they might do. There's 4 bridges there, so eeny, meeny, miny, mo. In order to keep travel from going in or out of the city, because that's what the Bible talks about with, I believe it's Jerusalem, right? Or Jericho. I got to brush up on my scriptures. Whatever town that has the high walls, and you go walking around it 7 times, and then the wall falls, and the William Penn building is that tower. It looks like that, because you can circle it. You can literally drive around it and go in circles. Remember when I was going to the left side, and Tyler Mullen was saying I should be going to the right side, and I'm a false prophet for whatever? Yeah, well, whatever you say there, Tyler, the vicar of Jesus, and however many other. I thought one time that could be Jonathan Clegg behind one of his masks too, because it kind of sounds like one of his characters. And after all, being the vicar of Jesus, I don't see him really tied together too much with Stephen James throughout all this period of time, considering he was the vicar of Lucifer according to the Jesuits, and then Tyler Mullen, the vicar of Jesus. But really, Jonathan Clegg is looked at as Jesus, and maybe that was the purpose in the beginning, is he's going to represent Christ. But maybe one of his other twins on the same channel that acts like he's not doing all of his videos about what I'm doing, maybe he ain't, but the other one is. It could be that too, because there's a good side and the evil side. There's the truth and the lies, and even though the two become one, let every man be a liar and God tell the truth. Because even if it's just, let's say Jonathan Clegg didn't actually step on a serpent, then that would be a lie. Or let's say he placed a serpent there and then stomped on it. Technically it's a lie, because it didn't actually happen that way, but he's not really, you got to do things in literal form to make it manifest. I've learned that about the Masons. They'll do the literal thing as they're explaining a spiritual story, like the bridge collapse. The spiritual story behind that is that Philadelphia is getting ready to get taken over. And it starts here. Once again, it starts and then it ends. The Declaration of Independence, City Hall. It's going to end there. But in the meantime, you're going to see signs. And they may be the signs of Jonah. They may be the only signs you get. And the signs is destruction. Because the Bible isn't that clear. It just says he waited outside of the city to see what would happen. And then it's like, well, that was back then. End of story in the chapter. But it continued on in reality, because just like the second coming, Christ rising up, well, the story ends 40 days after he rose from the dead. And then it's end of story. So it's like a continuance of what's happening now. So the bridge that collapsed, it's a way to keep travel out, commerce, goods, trade. Jonathan Clegg is talking about a trademark. Now, I don't know how a 6 and a 9 was stamped on my forehead, and it's shown more now, has like a more of an outlining. I think because that was the purpose, to show that there is darkness from the 6th to the 9th hour. because at even with the bridge collapse at 6:20 a.m. on Grimace's birthday, on Jacob Israel's birthday, when I had a feeling something drastic was going to happen with Jacob Israel, and it did. So it happened. It collapsed. It was on a birthday, and it was darkness from the 6th to the 9th hour, I'm sure, because of the smoke rising up. Same thing at 6th to the 9th hour, Christmas morning 2020, when I predicted that there would be some type of darkness in the 6th and 9th hour. Christ was crucified. Between the 6th and the 9th hour, there was darkness, and somehow they stamped that in my forehead from birth. I think it was designed to appear after 46 years, or 47. I'll be 47 in a couple of days, like a week. So there's a trademark. Now, people have already the mark of the beast, because the mark of the beast that they have it's the host body. It's just riding the beast, the serpent. You're riding the serpent. The woman, you're the virgin, the Virgin Mary. You're now male to female. You're riding the beast. You're that woman. You're part of the woman. You're part of the system. Fornication inside your body, and concealment, and who can see what we're doing, and all that good stuff. Well, Rob and Henry Tees can see what you're doing, because he had a little bit of help from a bunch of friends. And so down here, because the people that are showing me these things may not even be living in this planet, or even at this exact time. They can talk to me live, but they're from the past. So it's being down here, being groomed, walking the earth, and then being able to take it over through the people that already run it. They're just helping me understand. They can't just give me power and like, here, Robin, take over. No, I have to be groomed into it, and I understand that. And I've matured since the beginning of 6 years ago. And whatever power position I get, it won't be the Kimbo stance, but whichever position it is, I'm going to do the best that I can do with it in a godly fashion. Period. And you guys know it. I'm not going to get a big head when I have the authority, because I already know I have it. And I know I just need to be patient with it, and it'll pan out. Because all these people are just lost sheep, and they're all controlled, and it's time for Satan to go bye-byes. Because I have to walk this earth. You don't. You can go back to your place. How's that? Everybody can go back to their place. Go back to your planet. Get out of here. We're good right here where we're at. But I sure do hope I really get to meet the actual Jonathan Clegg on Earth, and not somebody else dressed as him trying to trick me at some point. Because isn't this the last time where everybody meets, comes down here? So anyway, the economy's going to collapse, everybody, right here in Philadelphia. I know my boss doesn't like hearing it, like Dave, because I told him 12 years ago the world was going to end May 21st, 2011. I even reminded him a couple weeks ago. He's like, yep. I still have the CD or whatever I gave him. Just hold on to it. Remember, Dave, I did text you a couple years ago, and I said, just a thought, maybe you should buy a farm close by in case the economy, in case the economy collapses, because then you'll be self-sufficient. You won't have to rely on that. Kind of reminds me of the Joseph story in a sense. where you can plant your garden, you can have your animals, and whatever. You don't have to rely on the government system. And don't you know, lo and behold, 9 months later, he buys a farm for about $3 million, which reminds me of that story of, I forget the two people that held on to some of the money once they sold their property. And I think even Paul Beglia too, I think he said he was impressed with me figuring that one out a while back. Pressus and Acillus and Quillus or something, holding on to some of the money. Because I think he bought it for like 2.7, but it was originally 3 point something. So there was a period of money that wasn't accounted for. Even if that was what was being talked about. But he did buy a farm. It is close by. The economy's collapsing, and I was right. And I have proof of everything. I document everything. The text message, evidence. And then there you go. It happened. But the reason why money is so sickening to me is because people because of the money, they can be puffed up if they're in like a power position, like if they have authority over you. Because if you're the one that signs checks and hands them out, then you have that position, you have that power. If you're a good prince or king, or when you have the authority like that and you're good, you can really make a positive change in people's lives. You really can. But if you're evil or just selfish or just part of the Masonic system, that you're just embedded to be that way, then you can really make it difficult for people. Or you can kind of hold it over their head. My idea of being in charge is, if I had all the money in the world, guess what? I won't have all the money in the world. Look, here's what happens with me. Here's some of the things that goes on in my life. Just side by side. Hello, how's it going? You want to ride with me? You want to ride? I can give you a ride if you want. So I can't wait for the economy to collapse right here in Philadelphia. I can't wait for everything to shut down, because it's Bible prophecy being fulfilled. That's why. It's not that I'm looking forward to people suffering, because they're only going to suffer for a short period of time, and then it's time for a clean sweep, the power shift from greed to good. So when I get all the money, if I had all the money in the world, I wouldn't have all the money in the world. Everybody else would have just as much of the money in the world. Not everybody, but the people that deserve it. The other people that don't deserve it, the ones that have had it, well, they don't get it anymore. And the reason why rich people don't want to hear what I have to say about it is because they don't like the idea that they're not going to be in charge. And they have to work these jobs that we're doing now. They have to do manual labor and work for us. And I'm going to remember all the people that were good to me. And I'm going to remember all the people that are passively aggressive, backstabbing, double-tongued, double-minded speakers. And I'm quick to forgive people, but nobody at this moment is really really has any respect for me, because they don't, what I'm saying hasn't taken place, and it's, you know, I'm Robin. Everybody knows Robin. He's just, it does that weird guy or the weird dude. Well, I might be weird in your eyes. It's just the fact that I've never related to anybody down here. So I may be a little bit different, but my heart's in the right place. When I take over that position, you're going to know it publicly. And you're going to be conditioned. You've been being conditioned for the past 6 years, mainly this past year, mainly since I went into the art museum. I mean, that is case closed right there for eyes to see. And even if you can't see it, you're going to see more of it. You're seeing it with the bridge. Whatever destruction happens, I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to interpret it exactly the way that the gods are making it happen. So the bridge collapse, that's Jesus's foot stomped that out and crushed the head of the serpent right there. Considering Philadelphia is the final destination and it's going to be surrounded by military, you're going to know that we're at the end. So for everybody that has buku dollars, not anymore. You know why? Because you took the wrong mark. You thought it was a physical mark. You thought you had to get some kind of chip implanted into your brain. Nope. You're just going to have a 6 and a 9 stamp in order to buy or sell anything, because it's a trademark. And it's Jonathan Kleck's trademark. And it's on my forehead. Like it or not, just the way it is. And again, I'm very merciful when it comes to people admitting their guilt, admitting they're wrong, just admit it. Admit what you did. Admit who you are. Admit that you're an agent. Admit that you're a liar. Admit that you're CIA secret operatives that watch me 24/7 and act like you don't. Admit you watch my videos. Admit it. And tell me to my face. Speak to me directly to my face. But people won't, because they don't have that respect just yet. There isn't that respect. Because what I'm doing is incomprehensible. Although you're seeing it a little bit more and more. You may not want to believe it, but it's here. It keeps happening. It keeps happening. The Stall King, they're everywhere. The Stall Kings. The King of Stalling. People think they're funny. They hide behind the scenes, using their money as power. You're not going to have much power soon.